Good morning, Crystal. How are you?
I am excellent. Glad that
Wow.
is, I think I'm glad that it's Monday, but I'm probably not glad that it's Monday. But it's Monday. How about that?
It is Monday, whether we like it or not. We did get up this morning. That is a good thing, right?
We
Every
did.
day.
And isn't it amazing that it is already November? We have one more month in this year. It was on like accelerated speed or something. I don't know
I don't
why it took
know.
we got here so fast, but we
I
did.
don't know how. I don't know how. I do know I was supposed to be rich by now. I know that.
Well, you have next year.
Next year. There's always next year.
Always
Always
your
next
next
year.
year. And it's
Yeah.
really a month away, 2 months
It's yeah,
away.
good could happen quickly. Could happen
It could.
quickly.
It
My
could.
goodness,
So
you are so right. I mean, it has been a whirlwind of a year, and it feels like it should only be June, but it is already almost the end of the year here.
it is.
My God,
It is. And it's
June was
so now
yesterday.
we got to start thinking holiday-ish for those of us that are celebratory. And then we have only thing I'm looking forward to, it's twofold. But by the end of December, probably by the third week of December, my clients start shutting down. So now I can start doing some things for me. But
Mm,
however, that means that my invoicing, my hours get reduce
yes,
during that
yeah,
month. So I'm gonna have to have some other stuff happening. But I'm
yeah.
working on some other things. But yeah, that's the only downside. But it gives me some breathing room because my right now my my calendar would scare the average human being.
You are busy. You are one of the busiest people I know. So
Yeah,
I can believe that.
sometimes my calendar scares me.
I can just imagine. Oh, I don't even want to
Yeah.
look at your calendar. I'd
No,
be
you don't
horribly
want to look at my
embarrassed.
calendar. Not on a regular. You're like, oh no, whoa, my God, I'm just exhausted.
Just looking at the
Just
calendar.
looking at your calendar, I'm exhausted.
I probably would be that. That's probably me. That is me.
Oh,
Okay.
but I'm glad to
Well,
be here.
I'm
Always
good.
glad for Monday at 1 o'clock.
Me too. It is something that I look forward to, and I'm so glad you can join me. This is just awesome, awesome. I learned so much from these things. I have to research them. Like was it Saturday night? I was researching the topic we're going to talk about today, and I got so jazzed because we generally talk about the beginning of business, and rarely do we get to talk about the end of business. So this is
Mm,
really cool. So first of all, our topic is how do retirement plans fit into ending a business?
mhm.
And so glad you're able to here to take part in that. This is conversations on the patio, and just in case we didn't tell everyone, my colleague and friend Crystal Mitchell is here. I'm going to read her bio, and then we're going to talk about retirement plans in the ending of a business. Anything to say, Crystal? Questions,
No,
comments?
that's why I'd like to see. I think people might like to see our title. So can we fix us so we're side by side so they can see the
Oh,
conversations on the
yes.
patio?
Oh, really? Let's see if we can do
That's the benefits of being live. There we go.
that.
And see our beautiful patios.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. I
Yeah.
just also have to add that Crystal did a great job arranging these patios and putting everything up there. So that is awesome. Thank you, ma'am. And I'm going to
Yes.
run
Yes.
that little ticker thing there.
All righty.
There we go.
There we go. So we're
Okay.
ready. So
Here
let's,
we go.
okay.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Crystal Mitchell, she is a business coach consultant, CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co director of Recycling Black Dollars, co host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, that other online radio show, instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and last but not least, a QuickBooks Pro advisor, financial strategist. Welcome, Crystal Mitchell.
Thank you. And who might you be?
I am Jevon Thomas. I'm a licensed retirement plan advisor. How about that?
I know, huh?
How about that? It's a whole lot of words. A whole lot of
I
words.
know, huh?
Yeah.
All
Okay.
righty. We ready to jump into I'm this is an interesting topic because I don't think business owners, not entrepreneurial business owners actually think about what happens at the end. What do we do? Are we going to stay in our business forever? Can we sell our business? What happens to my livelihood? All of these questions that I would imagine if you're at that stage in your life where you're tired and your calendar scares the heck out of you and you're ready to reduce that. What do we do? What are our steps?
Again, that calendar thing.
Just thought I'd throw that in there.
You are spot on. And I think usually you talk to people at the beginning of their second act or the beginning of their third act. And this is an opportunity for us to take a look at that and see, how we can actually prepare for that day when we decide we don't want to have that second act or third act anymore. We have an expression out here in the world away from institutionalized investing that suggests that many people spend a bunch of time, or a lot of time, it's technical term, bunch of time. Many people spend most of their time working in their business instead of working on their business. So this is an opportunity for us to take a look at what working on your business may look like from a retirement plan's point of view. So first thing is, we all learn in school, I don't know if very many of us do it, but we all learn in school that you should work on selling your business, right? Work on selling your business. You should develop some type of exit strategy.
Right. So that's part of that business plan. And usually people don't really understand what that truly means. They interpret exit strategy with a different mindset, but really exit strategy is about, okay, now it's time to make some decision about the business and whether you're moving on, selling it, whether you're doing passing it on, but there's an exit strategy.
Yeah. And I think it's becoming more and more popular now that corporations are becoming more and more popular for smaller organizations. People, I deal with a lot of investors, and a lot of investors want to know, what is the ending strategy? So when the companies come up to pitch to us, they always put in, okay, this is supposed to last 4 years, or this is supposed to last five years. My exit strategy is X. We sell all the stock, or we do whatever it is that we're going to do. And so when the investor is looking to see, okay, what exactly is this investment? They also have to consider that the exit strategy is there. New management is coming in, or something's going to happen. So it's becoming more and more popular. But I think for many of us, we start the business and we're just happy to be in the business. We're taking things one day at a time.
Right.
And I think you made an excellent point. I would just add to it with regard to that business plan, that we don't really know how powerful that plan is. Because as you know, I'm fond of saying we should have a plan. And a plan gives you a guidepost. It gives you something to judge what you're doing. It kind of keeps you on point. An exit strategy inside your business plan can help you with that as well. You know what goal you're heading towards, if you're heading towards the right goal, if you need to make some changes. Many of us, just to try not to belabor the point, but we find out that, we're doing our business and all of a sudden our business becomes obsolete. Now it's trying to change your business plan, right? You can take a look at your business plan and say, all right, am I going to fulfill this? Am I not? Is this the time to get out or not? Things change. And so having a business plan is a great thing to do, and we rarely do it. But aside from that, most people, when you talk to them that I know of, my clients have said, okay, my business is my retirement. I'll just sell the business and go off into the sunset, which is a lovely, lovely idea that rarely, if ever, works, because most people value their business dramatically more than what it's worth.
So, and I think our smaller businesses, when you're working with big business, there's always a valuation, and it's ongoing with a big corporation, right? that's all part of their year end. And when they sit down in their annual, there's a valuation that started from the very beginning. Most of our smaller businesses or micro businesses, there's no valuation that takes place. And the bigger businesses are looking to make sure that, because they already have their exit strategy, so they're making sure that when it comes the time to sell, merge, or someday something that's going to take place, that the valuation is already there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So in our smaller businesses, we don't do that evaluation of, exactly what is the value of this business to some that would attract someone else to want to buy it.
Mm-hmm. And I think depending on how you run your business or the business that you want to take over, many of us start our own business from a particular idea. But I imagine there are some folks that come to you that want to buy a franchise, let's say, or they want to join someone else's business as a partner, or they want to, two people start their own thing or something like that. So I have in my notes that you have to evaluate the business every couple of years to make sure that you're on track, to make sure that your business does have worth, to make sure that if something should happen, you've got some idea as to where you're headed with regard to selling that business. Because as you know, in 2007, and I don't think I'm going to talk about this later, but in 2008, 2009, I guess I do. I have it down in my notes. I'm reading notes. I have notes.
Good. That's good.
Which is like flying off the top of my head here. But, so the number two is or number one rather, is selling your business doesn't always happen at the time that you want it to happen, and it doesn't always happen at the price that you want it to happen, right? But sometimes that happens. So it definitely suggests that you evaluate that business every couple of years. And that leads into something that you always talk about, and that is, of course, that buy-sell agreement. If you're in business with a partner, you want to make sure that you have a buy-sell agreement. You want to make sure that you have, in some situations, even key man agreement.
Insurance, agreements and insurance and compensate for them. Can we tell our audience, just in case they don't know, what that buy-sell agreement is actually does? How does it act?
Yeah, in this case, for me, and I'll let you jump in because I know you're pretty versed in this. And what I'm looking at is if one of your partners should happen to pass away or become incapacitated, then the buy-sell agreement allows you to buy that partner out. So let's say that your partner's spouse, it's you and your partner and their spouse, live in a common law estate where the property owned by one spouse is actually owned by the other spouse as well. Well, if your partner happens to pass away, you are now in business with your partner's spouse. That may or may not be a good thing. Many times it's not a good thing, and not for the lack of knowledge of the partner, but maybe because you don't have that history, you don't have that connection. And so untangling that mess can be horrible, absolutely horrible. So as a protection, it's good to have a buy-sell agreement in place. And in order to do that, you need to evaluate the business on a regular basis. The last thing in the world you want to do is be in a situation where your spouse has an old evaluation and your partner's buyout is not appropriate.
Right. And it's based upon that old. And also, not necessarily two partners come together doesn't necessarily mean that there's a cohesiveness to the spouses on the other side, right? And we don't also know what may internally be going on with those spouse, with the partner and his or her spouse, right? And so they may be coming straight on with vendettas, which you can see has happened over the years, and there's nothing in place. And so now here's a very successful company with employees and all of these things, and that individual comes in and starts dismantling everything, right? So making sure you have the proper documentation, even in your own, definitely the buy sell, but even I think partners should have their own agreements amongst themselves that is very outlined and very detailed,
Right.
because
Letters of incorporation. Even here in California, if you make a partnership, you have to file those letters of incorporation.
Yeah, your letters of incorporation, and it should be something very. You should have your wants and your needs and your all expressed in writing, so that there's no confusion at the end. Because if that person dies unexpectedly, it's too late. We meant to have this conversation, but they left the office this day and we didn't have this conversation, right?
Yeah. And,
And they never
I've
came
never
back.
met someone who died unexpectedly. Expectedly rather. I've never met someone who died expectedly.
Yeah.
They always die at the wrong time. So,
Right, exactly.
so from that point of view, you really need to get those papers organized, those goals and objectives. Get those organized, your charter, get that organized, make sure you know what you're doing, where you're focusing. And part of that paperwork is the evaluation. And so
That's kind of like that. What's that document you were saying when you're changing beneficiaries and divorce? When you're getting ready to divorce, it's right up there with that. Making sure that you change the beneficiary.
yes, yes,
Especially in
yeah,
the state of California, it gets a little
yeah.
dicey here in the state of California.
It can be. And I had an old boss when first got out of college. I was a claims adjuster, and she said, Jevon, when we were looking at the file, she said, if it ain't there, it ain't there. Right? There's no reading between the lines. Right? There's no, well, this is what they meant. That's not the way business is done. And I've always remembered that when I look at files and I look at cases and I look at these situations, like, oh, it's not there. So it's really not there if it isn't.
It's not there.
No matter the intent.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
It's at times like this that I have to bring up 2008 and 2009. I
Okay.
don't know if you remember this, but that's when I became a wholesaler. It was the year 2008. I had about, 7 or 8 weeks to go before we hit 2009. But as you know, the market
I was
tanked.
gonna say, what a heck of a time to be becoming
Right?
to becoming a
Right.
wholesaler. I'm getting what's happening.
Oh boy. And if you think I can pontificate now, you should have seen me back then. Talk about stand and deliver. What's going on? Well, let's see.
Yeah, that was a interesting time.
Oh yeah. And of course, no one knew what their company was worth, right?
Yeah.
And no one knew that their monies were going to go somewhere else, and we didn't know how long that was going to last. And it was a trying time. In one way, it was kind of a good time for advisors because we got rid of a bunch of them that didn't need to be in the industry. On the other hand, it was a tough time for advisors because they had to answer some really tough questions that we didn't always have the right answer or an answer for. When is this going to turn around? Well, that's a tough one.
Right.
And
in some cases, it literally took, in some cases, I know for a number of people that I know that lost a great deal of their pension plans, monies. It took them almost 10 years in fact, some of them just started turning around in 2019. And then, of course, 2020, we had what we had. But some of them were just starting to breathe easily because it took a little while because we had to get through, we had to go through Obama years. And then, of course, we had to go to those last 5 years. It was pretty tough. By 2019, some people were just turning around, and now and then here we are, today in 2021.
yeah, things are, but that's an excellent point. And we know throughout that period there have been ups and downs in the market, And those folks who have the philosophy that's appropriate for them, if they had good financial advisors, they'd be ready for all of that. I'm not saying that the money would come back, but I am saying that their mentality about what is happening, they'd be ready for that. And that's the best thing about being an advisor, I think, is getting people ready for how the market is going to affect them. And so many people say, well, I want somebody who's watching the market, making sure the market is doing well. And I'll stand here, sit here where I am, and say that changing or organizing your life around what the market does is going to be a painful, painful road. But directing the influence of the market based on what's going on in your life is always a less horrible way to go. It's always a better way to go. Let me put it that way.
Now, would you say, even though you were just getting into the wholesale market in 2008 and 2009, and the uncertainty that your clients had at that time, was it different? Not is it a different response that they're having now? Are they more conscious and more knowledgeable this go around? Because the stock market is, it always goes ups and down. Although it didn't take the hit that it took in 2009, did it?
No, it didn't take that much of a hit for that long either.
Okay.
My clients, the ones that I work with closely, understand that before you start to invest or early in your investing career, you need to understand the philosophy of investing and adapt it well. And in our economy / market, let's talk about the market, that thing that keeps going up and down. The market has gone up since the crash of 29. It just goes up in a jagged line, right? But it goes up. And I don't know if I can show this on screen, but it goes up and down like this. Right? So it always goes up, but it always goes down as well. So with that in mind, depending on your time horizon, your investment, and what's going on in your life and why you have that investment, you can determine your philosophy of investing. So investing in a retirement plan, I always say, I'm a retirement plan advisor, is dramatically different than investing outside of a retirement plan. We have a time horizon. We have a specific set of rules we need to follow. We have investments that are very similar, that look similar, but they can be a little bit different. So things are a little bit different over here in the retirement plan category. When we talk about investing in general, right? You're investing to make money outside of your employer-sponsored plan. That freedom causes a lot of consternation. And that freedom, it still needs to be managed, right? You still have to ask the same questions, but you're asking them from a different point of view. So it'd be the same as saying, oh, I have to drive to New York. And that would be like a retirement plan. We're going to drive to New York. It's going to take us a long time to get there. We've got these particular tools. We have this particular car. If something happens, we'll make a change, but we are going to New York. That's what's happening. Versus we're going to just be a world traveler. And we've got all kinds of instruments to choose from. We've got all kinds of time horizons to choose from. We've got all kinds of things, and we need to figure out what's the right thing to do. Very difficult, very different. Now, they're still going around the world, right? They're still going to use some kind of transportation, but the transportation they use is dramatically different than the one that we use. We're just going to go to New York from Texas, let's say.
Okay.
Right? So different things we need to consider. And most people think that, well, you're still traveling. So why can't you do the same thing here that you do here? Well, the rules are different.
Right. More structured over on this side in the 401k, right? I mean, you just can't be willy-nilly and because you're in a plan, you're not making your own arbitrary decisions, right?
Exactly.
To change, yeah. And
Exactly.
I always understood that, you monies that are invested in pension plans, they move at a slower rate, right? I mean, because it's a whole, depending on where it's invested, it, you're not going to go in you're not going to do day trading, I would imagine, with a 401k.
We pray that you don't.
Don't. Okay.
It's not set up that way that you do that. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And
Right.
and there's a reason for that. And that is that a 401k plan is designed for the whole company. And inside that whole company, there are people that are fast movers and shakers and people that aren't. But there's only one plan. So the fiduciary responsibility of the owner, that is, responsibility with money attached. That is, if the plan fails, it's his fault or her fault. That fiduciary responsibility limits them with regard to what they can do, what they can let into the plan. And a better way to say that is they want to have a safeguard for everybody in the plan, not just the wealthy, but the folks who aren't wealthy, not the people that are not just the aggressive, but the folks that aren't aggressive. So they want to make sure that they have a plan that can serve all of those. And what that means is it tends to be a bit more conservative than outside the plan. Outside the plan is just you and that advisor, your money, and you guys are doing what you got to do to make it happen. And I applaud that. That's a wonderful position to be in. Inside the plan, you have everybody and yourself rather than everyone who works with you. The plan has to serve all of you. And unfortunately, that's not always your best interest for making money, right? Because some people don't need to make money in a plan. Some people just need to hold on to their money. Some people need to just not lose as much money. And some people need to make more money than others. And some people just aren't that aggressive, right? So we have to make sure that we have appropriate investments for the whole of the plan versus investments just for one person. I'll give you an example. I think you've heard me talk about one of my ex-girlfriends. When we were in our 20s, the right mix for her was about 20% stock and about 80% bonds. She was a very conservative person, right? And so people would say, she's young enough to, it's interesting, they'd say, she's young enough to come back if the market topples, right? It's easy for us to say that until the market topples, right? So people would say she's young enough to come back when the market is down. And I'd say, well, if you give Gail, her name was Gail. Sorry, Gail. If you give Gail a dollar today and it's not there tomorrow, there will be no peace in the household. I mean, she will let everyone know that, right? And so in order for her to sleep, actually, more importantly, in order for me to get some sleep, we need to get her a very, very conservative platform.
Right. Something that she don't have to worry about, something that she don't have to think about and have anguish over on a daily basis, right?
Now that Gail's in her 50s, she looks really good for someone. She looks like she's in her 30s, but now that she's a wee bit past her 30s, she's mellowed out. And so the right mix for her is about 50-50, right? She's okay with it. She's made some money. She's got a house. She's not worried too much, right?
Okay.
So your risk tolerance is supposed to change, and it does change. And that's just one person. So a plan would have to, if she was in your company, you'd have to have a plan that was appropriate for her as well. So we have to think of that. When you're just dealing with you and your broker, you just need a plan that's appropriate for you when it's appropriate for you. So there's a difference there. So to your point, things and plans move more conservative. They can, depending on your mix, right? Because they're just not going to be as reactive. And I think, if I could throw another analogy out there, there are all kinds of tools in your toolbox, right? Do you have a toolbox?
Yeah, I have a toolbox.
Okay.
I'm a toolbox. I'm a
So, I
gardener.
mean, see, right? You have all kinds of tools in your garden, right? You have the
Right.
hoe thing. You have that hoe thing with the prongs on it.
Yep.
You have the
Have
you
the
have the
doll, the
shovel.
shovel thing.
You got
Yep.
the
Yep.
small
Yep.
shovel.
Yep.
You've got all kinds of tools. Now, you could do just about everything you need with that small trowel.
Right.
You could,
You
but it
could.
would take you a long time to get just about anything done, right? You have to use the right tool for the right job. And that's the way it is with investing, right? You can't just use one tool. You got to use all the tools in the box.
Okay.
So that's that's the whole deal. That's why they sometimes are a little bit more conservative, because the right tool for everybody, that shovel, right? When it would be just fine for some of the folks if we just use in this part our trowel. Why do we have to use the whole shovel? We just need to
Right.
do this with the trowel. Well, you don't have a
Right.
trowel, you just have a shovel.
Right.
So
Exactly. Now, what happens? So we're going to get over to our topic. So now I've been in my business. I've had it value. I have a valuation, and I'm looking at, okay, my retirement is actually going to be the selling of my business.
okay, so here's the deal. You want to sell your business, things are going fine, you're making some money, you're just tired. You get your business evaluated, nobody wants to pay that price. Don't want to do it, right? Maybe your clients are thinking, you know what, or your competition is thinking, the real key to your business is you, and you're going to be gone. So we're going to get your customers because you're not there. So why do we need to pay in order to get them?
The
Right?
whole business. Okay.
Right? And then we think, well, there's always the equipment. Well, what if you're one of those folks, like many of us, our equipment is a laptop. By the time you sell, you probably needed to get rid of that laptop. Right. So do we really need to buy that? Unless you have big green things or big yellow things that are part of your business, there's a very good chance that your technology is old. Right. So the point I'm trying to make is that when you're ready to sell your business, you may not get the price that you want. So a healthy business evaluation is true, but also giving yourself some time. Right. So perhaps your business is going to become a little bit more popular in the fall than it is in the summer, just based on your business cycle. So, or maybe you want to hang on till you find the right buyer for the right clients, for the clients that you have. Because not everyone's going to serve your clients the way that you serve your clients. And if you care about your clients, you want to make sure you're going to pass that on to the right person, to sell that to the right person. So you may not be able to sell immediately, right? So what do? Well, 10 years before that, 15 years before that point happens, you start that 401k plan, right? Now you have some money and you can say, okay, I don't have to sell my business right now. I've got some money here, right? So maybe you start off with a 401k plan, a profit sharing plan, a defined benefit plan, just so that you can have that nest egg so that when you sell your business, if it sells now or it sells 2 weeks from now or 6 months from now or a year from now, you've got some money saved up so that you can survive until that happens. That's number one, right?
Okay. So giving yourself an option. So you're not feeling like this impending need to sell and then becoming panicky because it doesn't happen at the time you think it happens. But if you have a 401k, now you can take your time and make sure that you're going to get the right price for your business.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
Or if you don't get the right price, you at least have a savings back there, right?
Yeah.
Because most people are pretty confident, they want 5 times earnings or 3 times receipts or whatever factor it is that you put on there. Your business may or may not be worth that.
Okay. Right? Okay. I got
Not
that.
always is, right? Yeah. So setting up that 401k plan can give you that cushion until you sell your business and until you sell your business to the right place. So when I say a 401k plan, I mean a 401k plan, profit sharing plan, maybe even a defined benefit plan. Well, let's talk a little bit about that defined benefit plan versus the 401k plan because we do sell them separately. We sell the 401k plan and the profit sharing plan, and we can call that profit sharing plan a employer contribution. Those usually go together. But the defined benefit plan, that's different. That's two different things. So let's talk about that defined benefit plan. Okay. You want to sell your business in 5 years. 5 years. Mom and dad want to sell their business to Junior in about 5 years. Let's say that, right? So we've got ourselves a little 401k plan. Everybody's putting some money in. It's not all that much, but they're putting some money in. Mom and dad are dramatically older than Junior, who they want to, quote on, take over / buy the business from them, right? But Junior ain't got no money. Let's just put it that way. Junior spends his money well. So the chances that Junior is going to be able to dig into his pocket and come up with the cash that mom and dad need, and typically that means the cash that mom and dad need so that they can help Junior out by giving him a better price, which means they're not going to get as much as they want, right? Because it is Junior, it is family. The chances of that are going to be pretty slim. So if we set up a defined benefit plan for mom and dad, the whole company, but we can skew those monies towards mom and dad, and we can talk about that later. If we can put away $40,000, $50,000 a year for mom and dad, maybe if we do that for the next 5 years, we're looking at, I'm just throwing these numbers out, but 200, 250K for mom and dad as that little nest egg, so that now that they retire, they can claim that money, right? And they don't have to worry about Junior not coming up with the cash. So it's a way to put away some more cash in that short little period. Now, here's the deal. There's some rules. First rule is the Department of Labor says, you have to have that DB plan for more than 3 years to make sure it's a DB plan.
Okay.
But we work with those rules that the Department of Labor sets out and the IRS sets out to help business leaders do one, provide for their employees, fulfill their fiduciary obligations, but also to make sure that we get their needs met as well as we can. So all that being said, that's my little disclaimer. We will say that you can start that defined benefit plan to save some cash for mom and dad so that when that sell date comes, 5 years, 6 years from now, right, we plan this out, right? We say, mom and dad, we can put away $50,000 for you each year for the next 6 years. That gives you $300K plus a little bit of market growth. Is that going to help you when it comes to Junior's plan to take over the business in 6 years? So while you're grooming Junior, you can also be putting money away in that defined benefit plan for yourself. And you can smooth transactions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. So, yeah. So good plan. Now, let me ask this question. This is for, say, a larger company, and I've always been curious. So, in this day and age, the mergers and the buyouts and all that take, companies, they happen on a regular basis. Banks are always buying other banks. And what happens to their retirement plans? Do they stay status quo when another company buys out another company? So let's say, was it Wells? No, One West Bank was bought by whomever. I think it was Washington Mutual, and then it became Chase. So what happens to the plans and everything that were set up under the original owner of the business?
It's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. It's such a juicy thing to discuss. So the first thing you have to remember is that the plan is that the money that the participant put in is theirs. All the money that you as a participant put into your qualified plan is yours. It cannot be taken away from you. So subject to markets up and down, going up and down rather, that money is yours. You leave the company, you take it with you.
Okay.
So when that company changes, that's still yours. Your money right there. That's still your money. So when company A buys company B's monies are still there. They didn't go away. They're still in the market. They're still performing. Company A may have a different retirement plan. So now we got to figure out how we can make company A people equal to company B people, because we can't have two different plans in the same place. Everyone, we have to go through what they call discrimination testing. So you can't treat some employees better than other employees better in the same organization, right? So we got to equal that out. So eventually those plans should become one and everybody should be equal. So which one's it going to be, right? Okay. It's also very difficult to take away a benefit, right? It's also very, really difficult to take away a benefit. So if one company is getting a match, one company is getting a match of 8%, it's not real cool to drop them all down to 2%.
If that's what, because the company A is 8%, company B has been doing a 2% or 4%. So now they got to come. Company B, if B is buying A, then they got to come up to the 8%.
I would say if B is buying A, they've got some serious talking to do in order to make those plans equal. So I don't want to get into the point of recommending something, but I would suggest that, how about if I put it this way, and we can talk over a beer later, that what you're saying is probably not far off the mark, but there is some conversations that have to happen to make sure that everyone's being treated equally.
So basically, I get that. So basically, if company A, if company B is buying company A, we got to look at the whole company, not just. You got to look at what the benefits are for the employees, and each one of these, there has to be a conversation, and an action taking place to determine how they're going to move forward, right?
Yes, exactly.
And do they bring in? Company B has an advisor, company A has an advisor. Do you guys join forces, or do we get another advisor that has neutrality amongst the plans?
Usually company A, who happens to be buying company B, says, we don't need your services anymore, advisor for company B. And company A says, all right, how do we work this out? Right? Because the buying is happening. The company, nobody stops the buying because their 401k plan didn't work. So the buying is going to happen. So we've got to figure out how we join these two together. And what does that mean? It could mean that there's a buyout. It could mean that all these people get their money and it leaves, right? It goes to the participants, and we all start over with the company A plan. That could happen. Right? Or, we could have the forced buyout. Or they come with a deal with regard to the vesting schedule for the company monies that they had. So all kinds of things can happen. And I don't want to pinpoint one. But
I don't want you to pinpoint either. I was just curious as to how, because that's some internal stuff, right? It's one thing, I'm selling my widget company, and this is the valuation of my widget company. But my widget company has 1,000 employees, and they've been with the company for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're vested in their plan. So now what happens to their security? What happens to their future based upon that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I love that question. And it comes back to the philosophy of the money that you invest in your 401k plan is your money. It cannot be taken away from you. No matter what happens to that company, that money that you invest is yours. Now, the vesting schedule that's attributed to the money that the company puts in on your behalf, right? Mm-hmm. That money is also yours, subject to the vesting period. So let's say you've been working there for 15 years. The vesting period is 5 years. So you're totally vested in the retirement plan, right? Mm-hmm. You've been invested in retirement for the last 10 years. You're 100% invested.
Right.
If company A buys your company, and that merger suggests that you're going to join company A's plan, and the money that you have is going to go to you, and you can roll that money into an IRA. You can put it in your bank and pay taxes on it. You can do whatever you want with it. Mm-hmm. But that money, that company, that plan is closing down, and that money that's there, that's yours, that is the money that you contributed, and the money the company contributed according to their vesting schedule. We're going to take that money and give it to you. That could happen. Right?
That could happen.
But you never lose your money. So you can always either roll your money into the A plan, or you can take your money and roll it into an IRA.
Into an IRA. Oh,
You
and
can
that was
never
going to be my
lose your
next
money.
question. So the companies are merging to retiring. I'm close to retirement. I may be at 62, and I've started having conversations with my retirement plan advisor, Jevon, and now I have to say, you know what? If this company is being bought out, I don't think I want to stay here. Now I need to really start having serious conversations with Jevon on where am I going to do, because if this company is going to be bought in the next year or so, usually they know early enough, we need to start making more aggressive plans, more aggressive plans to me retiring.
Yeah, and let's take that scenario, and we'll just talk about that particular scenario and not every other scenario.
Right.
So let's just suggest that that's going to happen. I'm 62 years old. I'm going to retire at 65 or 67 or 78 or whatever it is. I don't happen to like company A. I don't like the buying company. I don't trust the buying company. I trust the people that I work with, the folks that I know. I don't know those guys. They right, wrong, and different. They're probably wonderful, but I don't know them. I don't trust them. I don't want to know them.
Right.
So what can I do? Well, you're over the age of 59 and a half, right? So all the money that you contributed, that's yours. You can roll all that money into an IRA. And because you're over the age of 59 and a half, you're 62, right? 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 We're 62. So
62,
we
right.
can roll all our money into an IRA. No penalty, no tax problem. Okay. You're vested in the company retirement plan as well, right? So that is to say, the company has set up some type of program where the employer has put money into the 401k plan for you.
Okay.
Right? Okay. And usually the way that works, let's say you have, the highest I've seen lately is a 6-year cliff, where you have to stay in the plan for 6 years, and then you can start being eligible for that money being yours. Vesting means ownership. So after 6 years, you own the money. Right?
Okay.
So once you own the money, and you own the money from there on out, right? So there's no 6 years and then the next 6 years and the next 6 years, and that's not happening. Once you're there for 6 years, you own the whole money. So if you've got a 5-year cliff, a 1-year cliff, a 2-year cliff, whatever it is, once you're there for that amount of time, you own the money that came in before, and you own the money that comes in afterwards. So all the money that you have there, that the company's put in for you and you put in for you, you can all take that and roll it all into that IRA.
Okay.
Typically when that happens, and I've only been through this, I don't know, 10 or 15, 20 times, but typically when that happens, you're exactly right. The person says, I don't know those people, right? So I roll all of my money, all the money that the company gives me, into the IRA, and then I start a new plan, a new relationship with this company, right? I start investing in their plan. Or I wait until that merger is done, and then I start the new plan up again. Right? Typically, that's what happens. You get to take your money, move it to another plan. Sometimes it just rolls right in, and your benefits change. Oh, well, we used to get a 5% match that was 1 for 1 up to 5%. Now we get a 5% matches 100% of the first 3 and 50% of the next 2. But I'm already vested, so it doesn't matter. So my match is the same, whatever it is, right? So the workout will happen there. But if you're 59 and a half, you're usually able to roll your money into another plan. Usually, right, without too much hassle. That's a very good question. But I think the most important thing to remember, though, is that understand the concept of vesting. Once you're vested, you can take that money after the age of 59 and a half, roll it into a new plan. You're always 100% vested in the money you put in. Now, what if you're not quite vested in all that money? What happens to that non-vested money? Your vesting period is 5 years. You've only been working for the company for 3 years. Then what do you do?
Okay. Right. So what happens?
Yeah. So now the company can say, 1, the money that you are vested in, take and go roll it into an IRA, or leave it there and we'll roll it into my plan. The money that you're not vested in, right? The 2 years, you've only been there 3 years, you got 2 years to go. We're going to keep that calendar and roll those monies into our new plan. And when you're there, when you're with this, when your whole tenure reaches 5 years, you're not going to lose your 3 years. Roll that money in, then you'll be fully vested. Right? Right. So the employees never lose when company A buys company B. Either they get their money and they roll, or they get rolled into the new plan, but they don't lose their money.
Their money. Okay. Okay. Is that the same if a company closes down or goes bankrupt?
Well, again, you don't lose the money that
you don't lose the money. So your money, everything just start to shut down. But here's your money. Go roll it into your IRA. Right. Okay.
And we know some very prominent people in our history, your history and my history, who went through some very difficult times, i.e. got sued once by some relatives and went to a court case without naming names. Those folks had almost all their money taken away from them except for their qualified pension plan. Right? The qualified pension plan is theirs, so now they're still living off of the assets that they had in that qualified pension plan, which was substantial.
Okay, because there's nothing no one can do to take away from that, because that's regulated. And
well, it's what we call qualified. So that envelope that makes it qualified keeps it from being perforated by lawsuits, personal injury things, bankruptcy, debtors. It can't be pierced by that. So, the only way that somebody can get at your money inside that qualified plan is if they marry you. So aside from that, you're really safe. So that's why all the attorneys that I know, all the doctors that I know, all the people that deal with folks, I say to them, look, we are in a litigious society, so it's a good idea for you to have a 401k plan. Just protect you and your family. Because if you've got an insurance program,
that's a good selling point.
Isn't it though?
It is.
Yeah. Because if you have an apartment complex, we can get to that. Right. I have personal injury friends that will take your house in a minute.
Right.
Yeah, but they can't take your 401k.
They can't take it for a good selling point. Good selling point for that. Okay, that makes sense. So then it is a good thing for a company, well, not just to protect themselves, but to protect their employees as well. Now, so you hear, but I know they don't have, they have a different type of pension plan, like government employees and so forth. And something happens and they're always saying, well, I could lose my pension over this. So is that set up in their clause or something that, even though they're vested and they're all that sort of stuff, or they're just saying, how can that happen?
So I've never seen a situation where someone loses their pension. Right?
Okay.
So if you are at a plan where the longer you're there, you get more money, right? So if let's say you join one of the services, and back in the day, you could retire fully at 20 years. And then I believe they extended that to 30 years. Let's just say that. They extended that to 30 years. So the benefit that you got at 20 was dramatically less than the benefit you got at 30, right? So let's say you are cruising along and you're in year 25. So you got 5 more years to go till you get that full pension, which is usually not prorated, right? It's not like, oh, I got 25, and so I get a little bit more at 26, a little bit more at 27, a little bit more at 28, and then once I hit 30, I get the boom. That's the big guy right there. Sometimes it's like that. But in order for you to get that boom, you got to be there 30 years. Are you with me? All right, you do something horrible in year 26. All right. So now you get your pension up to 25 because you served hard, but you don't get the big balloon that you would have gotten at 30.
At 30. So that's the part that they're concerned about losing, is the big part, but they can't lose what they've already vested in. And as they've been matching all those years.
Yeah, in general. Now that's That's a pension, and everything is subject to the rules of the pension. The military is something I don't understand, so I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what that is. So I'm not even going to promise to or try to
Mm-hmm.
take a stab at that. But
Mm-hmm.
in general, usually there's a big payoff somewhere once you hit that milestone. There may be a big payoff
Mm-hmm.
at 5 years, and then one at 10 years, and then one at 14 years, where your rights get different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But generally, you don't lose what you have; you lose what you could have. If
That
that
you
makes
could have.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Okay. Wow, that's great. And I think that gives people, if they're listening, a peace of mind. Because sometimes, again, one of the things I remember when I worked in corporate America, and they, we're your pension plan, and you signed all your paperwork, and you're like, okay, and you didn't understand not a thing that was happening. You just knew at some point, if I stay at this company forever, I'll get a pension. I'll get I'll have some retirement money. But in between that, I don't know anything about it or how it
Yeah.
works or how it really truly benefits me. I just know when I get closer to that retirement age, now I just know that's on the horizon.
You're making such a good point. We have this idea here in the US that someone is going to take care of this, that someone is going to make sure everything is okay. And I'm not here to suggest that that's not the case, but I am going to suggest that the way that looks is dramatically different than the way it used to. So, with regard to a pension plan, most companies don't do that anymore. It's
Mm,
very expensive, right? And
mm,
you can just imagine if you're working, not only are you working to get that product in the door and get your salary, but you're working to get that product in the door, get your salary, and pay Billy Bob's pension. And that can be kind of a drain on the company there, right? So
mm-hmm,
companies are saying now we're just not going to deal with Billy Bob's pension anymore, right? We're going to take care of Billy Bob because that's our deal. But for the rest of you new people, you've got this thing called a 401k or a thrifter or something like that. And that means you get the opportunity, I'll put it that way, you get the opportunity to design your own future, to claim your destiny, which
mm,
actually means you've got to understand the tools, see how they work for you, and then go
mm-hmm.
forth and conquer.
And
The
go
good thing about
conquer.
that is there's people like myself around that are happy to help you. The bad thing about that is there's people like myself that will defraud you. So you have to make sure that you know enough, right? And
Right.
when I say that, I don't mean you have to know, you know, you don't have to know enough to be a good driver. You don't have to understand how a combustion engine works to be a good driver, but you do
Mm-hmm.
need to know where the oil goes and when to get the tune up and how to turn on the wipers. You need to know some basics so that you can
Mm-hmm.
protect yourself. And I think the financial services industry is like that. And you don't have to know all at one time, right? You can grow into it a little bit. Don't give yourself a few months or a couple of years to get it done.
Yeah, that goes back to that conversation we've had with having your teams and then
Yeah,
being able to sit down with your team members and have conversation for different aspects of your life because our lives are not black and white. Our life has changes. So if there's any major changes going on in your life, you really do need to sit down with your retirement plan advisor and make sure that you guys are all on the same page as to what you want the outcome to be.
sure. And with
Mhm.
that said, we're getting very close to the end. In fact, we're getting a little bit over that. But I wanted to say one thing or mention one other option for when you're about to sell your company, or at least something you should put into your plan when you're about to sell your company. And that's an ESOP, an employer stock option plan. Really quick, it is not it is not stock in the company so that you can sell it on the open market. It's all internal, but it is a
Mhm.
way for an owner of an organization to sell that company to the employees in order to get some cash, and they can do what they want with that cash. They can buy an operation in another city or buy a building, or they can allow the owners to retire, right? That's another thing they can do. And so in a 5-year plan, putting an ESOP in place where you sell the company or part of the company to the employees, you can take that money and you can do something with it. That's another plan. The good thing about an ESOP is, number one, the federal government likes it when you have ESOPs, all the way from Mr. Trump and way back to uh, even still Mr. Biden. ESOPs are a good thing. It's ownership of the people of a company, so that's a good thing. Um, and depending on how much you sell about 30%, you can still get some tax benefit from that. So the US government likes this. And in a lot of situations, if you want to be a consultant to your company, you can still put that name on the door, right? So, number one, if your company is viable, you have a buyer. Banks love ESOPs because they know they're going to get paid. Number two, it's pretty much a loan that the bank gives you for the value of your company, that you, the owner, and your team can determine what you do with it. So the money is very flexible, very flexible. And then number three, it's a way for you to, number one, take care of your people, take care of that management team to make sure that's going to stay in place. And also, depending on your personality, maybe even leave your name on the door so that you can come in and, advise and what have you. I just wanted to throw that in at the end. That's one more tool, or one more way a qualified plan can help you through that tough time of selling your business.
And I think that's a good tool, especially in today's climate where employees are having more say so on on where they're going to work and how do they benefit from it, right? I know the nursery that my sister and I get our gardening tools and soil and plants, Armstrong is an ESOP. And I will tell you the difference between Armstrong Nursery and customer service and anywhere else is 150% better
The ownership of
because
the company.
they have ownership of the company and they're vested in the company, and so it's theirs. It's like their company, and so they treat
Yes.
it with they treat it like the owner treats the company, and you
Mhm.
can see it and you can feel it in the quality of their service as well as their product. So, and they feel like, they feel secure in their own in their business. So maybe in today's time when businesses are looking for, because we're going through a new time, right, where
Oh, yeah.
people, the employee, feel they have an upper hand and they're asking for this and this. Maybe this might be a good time for some companies to look at, setting up an ESOP, or at least inquiring from Jevon Thomas, the retirement and plan advisor. What does that
License.
take? Right? Because you're giving, they're giving sign-on bonuses. They're doing all kinds of things to get quality employees to work for their companies. Realizing probably for the first time ever in history that your company doesn't run by yourself alone. In order
Yeah,
to be profitable, your company needs employees
there you
because you
go.
can't do it all. And so it might be a good time, because I do know from the couple of companies that I know that are ESOPs, the people that work there enjoy where they work.
There you go. Well said. Well said. And our
Hmm.
government likes ESOPs. There's some recent legislation. Ooh, what a
Hmm.
tough word. Recent legislation making those easier to happen. So it is a great idea. And with that, I could talk about ESOPs all day long, but that I think we should wrap it up because we're a little bit past our time here. So I'm going to
Okay.
quickly read your
All
bio
right.
one more time so we know who it is that we're talking to, and then I will let everybody go. So my friend Crystal Mitchell is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. She's a co-director, or the co-director, of Recycling Black Dollars, co-host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, another online TV show or radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College. She's a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Thank you so much, Crystal, for joining me. I'm Jevon Thomas with as a retirement plan advisor, licensed retirement plan advisor, and this has been Conversations on the Patio with Crystal and Jevon.
Oh, fantastic. You guys come back next Monday at 11 a.m. We'll have another great I'm sorry, 1 o'clock p.m.
You can
Pacific
be here
Standard
11.
Time.
We will.
I know, Pacific Standard Time. That's my other show. And we'll be here for you with another great topic to give you some conversations on the patio. So you guys have a great weekend. And we will see you next Monday.
There you go. Thank you, Crystal.